What do Bitcoin, nuclear weapons, and North Korea all have in common? No, this isn't a setup for a bad joke. It's the world we're living in right now. North Korea, the most rogue nation on earth, has quietly become one of the largest Bitcoin holders in the world. Meanwhile, the US is stockpiling its own Bitcoin in a strategic reserve. Now, the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, and the globalist elites are circling like hungry predators, calling it a national security risk. And behind closed doors, well, the usual suspects are ramping up efforts to tighten control over Bitcoin, using every excuse in the book. Meanwhile, others are working day in and day out to legitimize Bitcoin. Well, what does this all mean? Well, I'm gonna show you exactly how this global chess game could either launch Bitcoin to the moon or trigger the biggest attack on financial freedom we've ever seen. All right, guys, let's get into it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, Kyle, North Korea has Bitcoin? Since when? Well, not only do they have Bitcoin, now they're one of the largest holders in the world. Yep, right behind the US, China, and the UK. They didn't exactly buy it on Coinbase. They've been hacking, stealing, and laundering billions in Bitcoin and crypto, using it to fund their entire weapons program, including nuclear warheads that could threaten the entire globe. Instead of begging the IMF for loans like every other struggling regime, North Korea just booted up their laptops and started hijacking value. From your DeFi project, to your favorite exchange, to your personal wallet. How? I'll break it down in a minute, but first, let's acknowledge just how far we've come. Right now, we are watching Bitcoin go mainstream in real time. BlackRock and Fidelity and others have launched Bitcoin ETFs, the most successful ETFs of all time, more than anything ever. The Bitcoin ETFs have been the most successful of all time. The US has created a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Countries like El Salvador and Bhutan are mining, buying, and hodling their Bitcoin. Bitcoin is no longer just magic internet money for tech nerds. It's being embraced as a digital reserve asset, a hedge against inflation, and the new foundation for financial sovereignty. But here's where the story takes a turn. The infamous LAZARUS group, a state-sponsored North Korean hacking organization, has been stealing Bitcoin for years. And we're not talking about just a few million here and there. We're talking about literally billions. On February 21st, 2025, the FBI released a public service announcement. North Korea's LAZARUS group stole $1.5 billion of Ethereum from Bybit. It was the biggest crypto hack in history. Probably the largest heist that's ever happened in history. And they didn't stop there. They converted much of it to Bitcoin. I guess you can say they're not big ETH fans. According to Arkham Intelligence, North Korea now holds over 13,500 Bitcoin. And that's just what we know of for sure, making it one of the largest government holders of Bitcoin. And this wasn't their first rodeo. They stole $625 million from the Ronin Bridge, $100 million from Harmony's Horizon Bridge. There was hacks on Atomic Wallet, Stake.com, CoinsPaid, and more. The total, over 6 billion, that's 6 billion stolen in crypto since 2017, making them the largest cyber criminal group in the world. And where do those stolen funds go? Well, they're not buying Lambos. They're buying missiles. Lots and lots of missiles. And they're probably hodling in their own strategic Bitcoin reserve now, knowing that the price is probably going to skyrocket. See, North Korea has a big problem. They're completely cut off from the global financial system. They can't trade in US dollars. They can't borrow from the IMF or World Bank. They're under extreme sanctions from the US, UN, and the EU. But instead of begging for help, they found a workaround: Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't require permission. Bitcoin doesn't require a bank. Bitcoin doesn't care about sanctions, and that's why North Korea loves it. They've built an entire economy of cybercrime, funding their nuclear ambitions with stolen Bitcoin, and the scariest part, they've gotten really good at it. North Korea is literally the OGs of financial crimes, ladies and gentlemen. Long before they were stealing Bitcoin, North Korea was already hacking the global financial system. Back in the early 2000s, they were producing what experts called super dollars, counterfeit $100 bills so precise, they were literally better than the real thing. Not because they looked close, but because they were too perfect. Real US bills had tiny imperfections in the printing plates, but North Korea's copies were flawless. That's how US agents spotted them, by noticing they were too good. But it didn't stop there. In 2016, LAZARUS tried to steal $1 billion from the Central Bank of Bangladesh. They hacked into the SWIFT system, bypassed multiple layers of security, and got $81 million out the door before a typo that said foundation instead of foundation tipped someone off. Let that sink in. They almost pulled off the biggest bank heist in history using nothing but malware and Microsoft Word documents. And when the world started paying attention, LAZARUS fought back. In 2022, they launched a DDoS attack that blacked out the entire internet in North Korea. Yeah, literally, they took themselves offline to avoid getting tracked. And researchers believe it was done to wipe logs, delay investigations, or throw off the scent entirely. So no, this isn't just some rogue hacker group operating in the shadows. This is a military-grade financial warfare unit trained, funded, and protected by a sovereign state. They went from forging fake dollars to hacking central banks to becoming the most dangerous group in crypto. And if they're now the third largest holder of Bitcoin, that's not just a crime story. That's a global threat to adoption. But hold on, how do we know LAZARUS is really from North Korea? Let's be clear. It's because the FBI says it is. TRM Labs links the wallet addresses, and chain analysis confirms reused infrastructure. But do you and I have cryptographic proof? No signature, no confession, no IP addresses traced to Pyongyang, no KYC documents submitted to Binance with a North Korean passport and a selfie, right? Just a handful of reports, some pattern matching, and a familiar line from the three-letter agencies. Trust me, bro. And blaming North Korea might actually be the perfect ending to the story. Because if it were some hacker from the UK or Canada or anywhere in Europe, well, then you would expect Interpol, FBI task forces, lawsuits, maybe even extraditions. But when the trail ends in North Korea, what are you gonna do? Send the cops to Pyongyang? Serve a subpoena to Kim Jong-un? Nope. Once the narrative lands there, it's game over. And conveniently, nobody can follow up. Nobody can verify it. It becomes the perfect geopolitical scapegoat. So yes, LAZARUS is dangerous. Yes, likely state-sponsored, but is it 100% ironclad? Let's just say we've heard "trust me, bro" before from three-letter agencies, but for now, let's just assume what they're telling us is true. And North Korea is the one behind the hacks. And they're not just stealing Bitcoin, they're hiding it. And they're doing it better than ever. North Korea is the #1 user of crypto mixing services and platforms designed to launder digital money. They used Blender and Tornado Cash to launder almost 500 million before they got shut down. They created a site called Sinbad.io, another mixing service, to continue washing stolen funds. And when the US shut those down, they just switched to new mixers like Wasabi, Crypto Mixer, and Railgun. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. And now the US government is panicking. Enter the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve of the United States. Trump's new executive order has officially created a government-controlled Bitcoin reserve. The US now holds over 200,000 Bitcoin, making them one of the biggest holders in the world. And instead of selling it, they're keeping it. Why? Because they know what's coming. Bitcoin isn't just an investment anymore. It's becoming a global reserve asset. As nation states recognize Bitcoin's growing role in global finance, the US is making sure it isn't left behind. The problem? This gives the perfect excuse for governments and globalists to attack Bitcoin and crypto. The IMF, which is like the world's bank of banks, who loans money to everybody and it just tries to control the world, they already hate Bitcoin. They hate it. They hate it. They hate it. Why? Because it exposes their entire scam. The IMF's entire power is built on fiat currency manipulation. They control struggling nations by lending them money, then trapping them in debt. Bitcoin removes their control. Countries don't need the IMF loans if they can hold Bitcoin instead. But now, with North Korea stockpiling Bitcoin, the IMF finally has the excuse that they've been waiting for. Mark my words, they're gonna say Bitcoin funds terrorism. They're gonna say Bitcoin is a national security threat. They're gonna use this as ammo to push for strict KYC laws, bans, and central bank digital currencies. So here is the dilemma. If Bitcoin is the new digital gold and North Korea has it, do other nations need to stack faster, or do they try to shut down the whole system? It's geopolitical game theory. If they embrace it, their enemies benefit. If they fight it, they fall behind. And that tension, that's what could shape Bitcoin's next chapter. But here's the thing. We already know Bitcoin is unstoppable. They can't ban it. They can't seize it. They can't control it. This is not a bug. This is a feature. Understand that. A system where no governments can freeze your funds, no central banks can debase your savings, no unelected bureaucrat can decide who gets to transact, and it's not even about money anymore. It's about freedom. Let's say they go full force. KYC every wallet. Ban privacy tools, already tried. Shut down every protocol they can get their hands on. Arrest developers, already tried. Blacklist addresses, already tried. Censor DeFi front ends, great plan, right? Except every time they do this, something stronger gets built. Sure, they can try to regulate it, but Bitcoin will keep moving forward the same way it always has. Just look at the numbers. The US dollar has lost 96% of its value since the Fed was created. The Argentina peso, it's hyperinflated to nothing. The euro, struggling. The yen, debased. Now, compare that to Bitcoin. A fixed supply of 21 million, open monetary policy, no central bank, no printer, no bailouts. One Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. Sure, the Trump administration and the current US government is embracing Bitcoin, but the question is, will those who have always controlled the world and the money supply really continue to embrace Bitcoin and crypto with open arms? We are yet to see for sure. The battle for money, freedom, and power is just getting started. Yes, North Korea using Bitcoin is a real challenge, but it's not Bitcoin's flaw. It's proof that it works, because the same tool that empowers individuals will always be abused by states and bad actors, and the same reason why governments fear Bitcoin is exactly why we need it. Bitcoin is the firewall between you and monetary tyranny, and whether the narrative is security, crime, or regulation, freedom always wins. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is North Korea the greatest threat to Bitcoin adoption, or the ultimate proof that Bitcoin is finally too powerful to stop? If you guys found this video valuable, do me a favor. It would mean the world to me. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. My name is Chasse. I really enjoy making these videos for you guys, and it would mean the world to me if you share it with your friends and family. And if you guys are curious where we are in this current market cycle of crypto, then make sure to watch this video right here because you will find out everything you need to know. That's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Stay informed, stay sharp, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.